That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, I have something embarrassing to admit. Now, I don't want to admit this, but in the last Patreon draft, this isn't a mock draft. This was a real Dynasty startup that we participated in. Y'all know we do that pretty much once a week over there on Patreon. I was on the clock in, I believe, the 5th round, and I knew we were going wide receiver, and I didn't know who we were going to be going with, and I was kind of in a panic. It was a live draft. I was streaming, and we ended up taking Mike Evans, and I'm actually looking at it now. No, it was the 6th round, but still, this point remains. We ended up taking Mike Evans in a frenzy, and people in the live chat were telling me, Mason, you should have gone T. Higgins. Mason, you should have drafted T. Higgins. And I was saying, well, no, honestly, I like my Mike Evans pick. I've been a big fan of Mike Evans for a very long time now, and you look at the consistency over the past 5 years, I think it's a fine selection. Well, after going through and writing the T. Higgins in-depth breakdown for our 2021 Fantasy Football Draft Guide, I had to go to our Dynasty rankings, check out where I had T. Higgins, and realized that it was way too low. I mean, it's embarrassing with our prior evaluation of T. Higgins. We moved him up in the rankings, and I think that he is possibly one of the most undervalued wide receivers in Dynasty right now with where he is going in startup drafts. And I kind of am, I don't want to say to blame for this, but I am one of the people that were passing up on him where he should have been a value. So, of course, we're going to talk about why. But before we get into it, go down there, drop that like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a ton. And we are, I believe, over 6,000 subscribers now. Maybe I am wrong in that. But regardless, thank you so much for all your support. And yeah, let's dive into T. Higgins. So if we are going to be pulling up a screenshot of that draft that we did, this is how the draft ended up going. So we decided to take Chris Godwin at the 508, and we did some trades in this draft. So then after Chris Godwin, the wide receivers were Amari Cooper, then Devonta Smith, and we were on the clock with Mike Evans, Courtland Sutton, Keenan Allen, T. Higgins, all available. And I was sitting there going, well, we already got Chris Godwin, might as well just buy into the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense. Let's get that correlation. Let's take Mike Evans there. So we pretty much debated it until it went down to the wire. We drafted Mike Evans, and then T. Higgins continued to fall. I mean, he went after Courtland Sutton, after Keenan Allen, and I think that's ridiculous because our updated Dynasty rankings over there on Patreon, we have T. Higgins at wide receiver 17. We have him ahead of Keenan Allen, ahead of Amari Cooper, and ahead of Mike Evans because this is a player that is absolutely fantastic. Now, if you look at what he did his rookie year, I understand that it's not going to stand out, but what's really funny and what the Dynasty community, including myself, has been, I don't want to say a victim to, but just completely wrong with so far this offseason is the fact that when we discuss CeeDee Lamb, I mean, when you hear CeeDee Lamb discussions, you pretty much just hear, well, think about the Dak Prescott injury. Think about Dak Prescott going down, then look at CeeDee Lamb before and after, and that's a real easy concept for everyone. And I have yet to hear that same type of analysis looking at T. Higgins with and without Joe Burrow. Now, this is a little bit harder to do because T. Higgins didn't have that immediate role like CeeDee Lamb did week 1 starting this season. But what's really nice is, of course, there's a game log. There's a record to show when T. Higgins was actually starting games for the Cincinnati Bengals. And the same thing with Joe Burrow. So you can go and you could just get a very narrow focus and you can go, what week did T. Higgins take over as a starting wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals? And what week did Joe Burrow get injured? Now, let's use those two as our bookends, and let's only look at things in that sample. So if you look in that sample, T. Higgins averaged 17.23 points per game. He was the wide receiver 8 in points per game. This is ahead of Justin Jefferson last year. Now, I will say, yes, it's a smaller sample than what you had with an entire season. So, of course, you can't have T. Higgins anywhere near that same range. But what's funny is this is a larger sample than what you had with CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott. This is weeks 3 through 10. You have 7 weeks of T. Higgins averaging 17.23 points per game when him and Joe Burrow were both starting for the Cincinnati Bengals team. Now, this kind of goes under the radar because you look at the season-long numbers for T. Higgins, and this is a wide receiver that averaged about 12.3 points per game. he was the wide receiver 40, and he averaged less than 60 receiving yards, less than 7 targets a game, and less than half a touchdown a game. So his season-long numbers aren't necessarily that impressive. But when you take a look at what you had when both Joe Burrow and T. Higgins were starting, this was a top 10 wide receiver as a rookie. Now, trust me, I understand JaMarr Chase is coming in, but what I don't like to hear is people just kind of talking about JaMarr Chase as he is some can't-miss blue-chip prospect and not giving T. Higgins credit for how great of a prospect he was coming out of Clemson. Now, I know if you pull up his numbers, he ran a 4.54 40-yard dash, which not many people are going to be impressed with, and I understand that. But we have done that historical research with our Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide showing what matters at the wide receiver position for these prospects coming in, and we have demonstrated with historical research the fact that you only need a sub 4.60 40-yard dash at the wide receiver position to meet that minimum threshold. Now, on top of this, at the same time, T. Higgins is 6'4", 216 pounds. This isn't a wide receiver that is ever supposed to win with speed. That's not his game, and that's why the wide receiver position is so complex, because you really have to understand the positions within the positions. And T. Higgins, we can look at his frame and we can go, hell, he has the upside to be Mike Evans through his career. He's only 22 years old. He was drafted with the first pick in the second round to be attached with Joe Burrow. There's everything going in the favor of T. Higgins. He broke out as a true freshman at Clemson. This is also a prospect that I don't want to say is close to being as good as JaMarr Chase was coming out of LSU, but he's also a prospect that was fantastic. It's not a Travis Fulgham situation. It's not a Gabriel Davis. It's not a Darnell Mooney where, oh my God, where'd this wide receiver come from? How did everybody overlook him? No, he's a wide receiver that within the top 40 picks of the NFL draft last year in a loaded draft class. So I'm viewing T. Higgins as someone to be all over. I mean, this is a wide receiver that had a great rookie profile coming in, that was dominant his rookie season to a point that nobody wants to look at, and people, including myself, are passing up on him in the 6th round of Dynasty startups. That's ridiculous. Now, I understand, guys, JaMarr Chase coming in, and yes, JaMarr Chase is a fantastic wide receiver. We can talk about him in this video. But a big thing I want to talk about as well is the shower narrative that you have with JaMarr Chase reuniting with Joe Burrow. And it's very funny that we have this shower narrative going on. And please let me know if I'm being stupid down there in the comment section below, because I really haven't heard anybody make this point. I never got to play the game of football because I had a brain injury when I was little. So maybe I am just wrong with this. But I know a lot of people are going, well, Mason, he's going to have that automatic connection with JaMarr Chase his rookie season. They played together at LSU, which is all fine and dandy. But at the same time, well, what did T. Higgins and Joe Burrow do last year together? Don't they have that same type of connection? I would argue that maybe they have a better connection because it's more recent. So I think the narrative that JaMarr Chase is going to be able to come in and be the wide receiver 1 right away because of this mystical connection that everybody's talking about maybe is a little bit overblown. But with JaMarr Chase, yes, we can address the fact that, I mean, he is a fantastic, fantastic wide receiver prospect. I mean, you go through, nobody needs to tell you this, but someone that checks every single box. He has the size. He's 6 foot, 201 pounds, 21 years old. He ran a 4.34 40-yard dash at his pro day. He was drafted with the 5th pick overall. So yes, JaMarr Chase, I mean, an absolute stud. And of course, what matters way more at the wide receiver position in terms of looking at them as prospects coming into the NFL is production at the collegiate level, where JaMarr Chase broke out as a true sophomore, which meets the threshold you want to see. No, we didn't break out as a true freshman like T. Higgins did, but everybody knows by now that JaMarr Chase, more productive on the same team at a younger age than Justin Jefferson. 127 receiving yards, 9 targets a game, almost a touchdown and a half a game. JaMarr Chase, a stud. Nobody needs to tell you this. But if we look up right now where JaMarr Chase is going in Dynasty startups, I mean, you see Chase sometimes going ahead of DK Metcalf, CeeDee Lamb, Stephon Diggs, Calvin Ridley, Devontae Adams. I mean, you've seen him go before A.J. Brown before. We had someone in one of our comment sections of one of these videos the other day saying that they had JaMarr Chase go as the #1 wide receiver in their Dynasty startup overall. Now, that is ridiculous. I can't get behind that. And I'm viewing T. Higgins as someone that was already a top 10 wide receiver in terms of points per game his rookie season with Joe Burrow. So I think the difference between these two prices when you're seeing JaMarr Chase go in the 3rd round of startups versus T. Higgins in the 6th is way too drastic. While, yes, we do have T. Higgins ranked behind JaMarr Chase in our Dynasty rankings that we discussed prior. I mean, we do have JaMarr Chase up there in a tier ahead. He's about at wide receiver 13, if I'm going off my memory, in tier 3, whereas T. Higgins is down there at wide receiver 17 in tier 4. But if I am drafting and I am just mapping out the perfect startup draft, in my opinion, I think that T. Higgins and JaMarr Chase are maybe one round apart, not this massive difference with where they currently are. Now, I know that a lot of people are going to be saying it's hard to get all these wide receivers targets in this offense. But guys, there are so many targets to go around. I mean, if you pull up what happened with this team this past season, AJ Green, who is now gone, got over 100 targets for this team. I mean, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd also got over 100 targets. So at the very minimum, and I'm saying worst case scenario, you could just peg in JaMarr Chase to come in and get 100 targets on this roster year 1 with both T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd remaining their value. But what I'm probably going to end up expecting is this offense to have more targets overall, more production overall, given the fact that Joe Burrow should be healthy this entire season. So don't give the argument down there in the comment section that both JaMarr Chase and T. Higgins are overrated because of target competition in this offense. Because I think if anything, any of these wide receivers getting shut out of the picture is going to be Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd, who in my opinion has been very unimpressive over the past few years. And if anybody is being drafted too high in this offense, it's Tyler Boyd. Now, I understand in best ball, sure, go out there and draft Boyd. That's completely fine because you need players that are going to be scoring points if you don't have access to a waiver wire. But over there on Patreon, I break down a ton of teams that are surprisingly way too shallow. I mean, I thought that the majority of people watching these videos were all playing in 12, 14, 16-man dynasty leagues where the starting lineup was 10, 11, 12 offensive starters. But I swear to God, every other podcast we make over there on Patreon is someone sending me their team and they're going, hey man, it's a 10-man league. We start a total of 6, 7, or 8 guys every week. And I'm going, well, in a format like that, Tyler Boyd has no value at all. I mean, get Tyler Boyd, package him together with a 2nd and a 3rd, try to get a random future first, hoping that you hit the lottery and it's in the top 5 and you could finally have a producer coming in with some upside. Because Tyler Boyd, no upside at all, in my opinion. I mean, you go through, you look at what he's done over the past few years. In 2018, this is a wide receiver, 108 total targets, and you know that Tyler Boyd is not going to be incredibly efficient with these targets, given the fact that he is that slot wide receiver. He's never going to have a high amount of touchdowns per target, and he's never going to have a high yards per target either. Now, in 2019, yes, he sees a massive spike in volume, and I think this is where a lot of people are getting wrong with his dynasty evaluation. Because in 2019, he comes out and he has 148 targets in 16 total games, leading him to having 90 receptions, but only 1,000 receiving yards. I mean, that's a very, very bad mark for a wide receiver to have pretty much 150 targets and 1,000 receiving yards. Not exciting in the slightest. And you see the targets plummet with T. Higgins coming in this past year. Now you're adding in JaMarr Chase, and T. Higgins going into year 2 should be able to take even a larger piece of the pie. So I see no upside with a player like Tyler Boyd for this upcoming season. And you throw in the fact that if you look at his contract currently, I mean, while he is under contract for 2021 and he is owed $4 million guaranteed, starting in 2022, this contract goes to a point where, I mean, you could see the Bengals moving on from him quite easily. I mean, he is owed over $10 million in 2022, and less than $3 million of that is actually guaranteed. And maybe he does stick around because they have a quarterback on a rookie contract. They also have JaMarr Chase on a rookie contract, so they don't have to pay that many players. Well, in 2023, at that point, I would just naturally assume that Tyler Boyd is off this roster entirely. He's only owed $1.4 million guaranteed, over $10 million on the total. So I think that Tyler Boyd most likely not on this roster in 2022, and definitely not on this roster in 2023. Now, if you look at where he's going in dynasty drafts right now, I mean, you are seeing him go consistently ahead of Michael Gallup, which, oh my God, Michael Gallup, a free agent this upcoming offseason, was more productive than Amari Cooper in 2019. I mean, Michael Gallup, I would take over Tyler Boyd 10 times out of 10. Also, you see him sometimes going ahead of Robbie Anderson, Marquise Brown, And I just can't get behind that. I think that Tyler Boyd at that price, it doesn't matter if you're a contender, it doesn't matter if you're a rebuilder, is most likely a very bad bet. Now, please, guys, let me know what y'all are thinking with this Cincinnati Bengals situation, because I'm viewing it as T. Higgins, JaMarr Chase are the guys that you want to own for the future. I think that T. Higgins is actually a discount alpha wide receiver. If you look at what he did as a rookie combined with his rookie profile, I would much prefer investing into T. Higgins compared to paying the premium for JaMarr Chase. But maybe I'm a fish. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. So please, if you believe I don't know what I'm talking about and I was wrong with anything we said in this video, go down there, go to the comment section and let me know. Drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see y'all with the video tomorrow. I want to give a big thank you for everyone joining the flock over there on Patreon. In Castro, Brian, Mike, Jay, Samuel, Villy, Rocky, Bailey, Zachary, and Andrew. Thank you, my dudes.